I absorbed a large quantity of synthetic CPH4 that will allow me to use 100% of my cerebral capacity. Once the brain reaches 20%, it opens up and expands the rest. There are no more obstacles. They fall away like dominoes. I'm colonizing my own brain.
Hey, yo, what's going on, friends? Welcome back to In Madness Pod. I think we're on episode 13.
Lucky 13.
Oh, yeah, great. Let's see how this one goes. It's Shawn the Butcher. I'm here with my buddy Vertebrae33. What's going on, dude?
What's happening, Shawn? How you doing?
I'm very good. I'm very excited for this episode. It's one I've been talking about for a while. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I have a tendency for some reason to bring this movie up constantly. So we figured, what the hell? Let's dip into it for our lucky 13th episode.
Yeah, a few times you've mentioned it, but I've noticed that on a lot of the episodes we will talk about things, and then a few times, and then we'll be like, okay, let's talk about that actual movie now, right? They're living in some of the same worlds.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of our last episode we put out too, The Menu. I want to thank again Chef Brian for being on that. That was one of our best episodes. That set the bar really high so this one's going to be probably not as good as the last episode.
Well, don't start out like that.
Yeah.
Right now. All right, we'll be back. But as far as guests, I mean, we've had two guests, and both guests were so great. So the bar is definitely set for guests, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't set it. I'm about to check out now. You said it.
Yeah, right. No, this is going to be good because you know what? This is a very underrated movie. This is a very underappreciated movie. Again, hopping out of the horror. I promise we will hop back into the horror for our next episode, but we'll talk about that later. But there's very much horror elements.
I would argue it's very horror, and I have to say, just in general about the podcast, so been getting a lot of really great feedback from people on the podcast and getting involved. But I do get one question and it's come up a few times, so I feel like we should bring this up.
Okay.
I've gotten, what is the milking of the alpacas moment? Right. And some people haven't gone back and listened to it. So can you clearly explain to our listeners what that means?
Well, there's the movie we got it from, which is Color Out of Space. If you have not seen Color Out of Space, check out the movie first, then go check out episode 5 of In Madness Pod, Color Out of Space, where we take a deep dive into the movie. In that movie, there is a point where Dad, Nicolas Cage, who has made this terrible purchase of these alpacas for his farm, a asteroid falls into their yard, and everyone is baffled by this. But all of a sudden, no one cares about the asteroid because Nick Cage has to go milk his alpacas. And him and his son Benny are sitting there milking these alpacas in front of, what was the water surveyor guy? Ward, in front of Ward. And Ward is just looking at them like, what is happening? And you as the viewer watching the movie, like, what is happening? And Nick Cage shoots the alpaca milk in the bucket, and Benny goes, "Good job, Dad." It's just the weirdest. It's like this shifting of energy, and every movie has that shift of energy. Barbarian, Color Out of Space, The Menu.
According to you, The Mist has 75 of them.
The Mist has 75 milking of any. It's that moment where you're either in or you're out,
right?
And it is the turning point of the movie. That is the milking of the alpacas.
Awesome. And I think probably periodically, as we get new listeners, we'll probably have to kind of re-explain that to them.
One of the episodes we talked about milking the alpacas shirts or stickers or something, or possibly even doing this podcast.
Is there an alpaca convention or
from an alpaca farm? We should have some sort of alpaca in the madness hemisphere. I like that.
Just another quick aside. So my wife listens to this podcast. She's an avid listener. Why she listens to me talk about a movie for 2 hours when she has to live with me too, I don't know, but bless her heart. And I got a random text from her the other day at work, and it said, "You can't make a milking alpacas moment that early in a movie." She was listening to the Batman. That was the only text. There was no follow-up after that. I knew exactly.
It was beautiful. And because I noticed that usually when I have a milking of the alpacas moment, you're like, oh, that was mine as well. I think the Batman was the first movie we had different milking of the alpacas moments.
Yes. Yeah, mine was super early.
I want to thank everybody for participating, for listening, for talking to you, for talking to me, for DMing us on the socials at InMadnessPod, InMadnessPod@gmail.com. We have the YouTube page. Subscribe to that. We got the In Madness playlist on Spotify, all the cool movies and all the music that's in these movies or songs that have sampled the movies that we review is all on that playlist. And I have to ask, do you have the vinyl for this movie, Vertebrae?
There is none.
Okay. So I think you should introduce the movie.
Okay.
However, I hope you're gonna do it the way I want you to do it.
Well, I was gonna save that for later.
Okay, but okay. No, then do it. Do it your way. But as long as
We'll jump in and back and forth.
okay. As long as you're reading my mind, yes, perfect.
So the movie is Lucy from 2014. I feel like a broken record because I'm like, I didn't see this movie. So there are a few movies I haven't seen.
So this is your first time seeing this
Yes.
movie.
Yes. I knew about the movie. I think I don't know why I missed it because it's something that's up my alley. I don't know if it was marketed differently, if I thought it was, like a John Wick movie or something, which it's not. It gets really insane at the end. We jumped to the end, just tell that already. But
yeah,
it came out in 2014. The director was Luc, and he's French. He's famous, Luc Besson. I'm gonna say, right?
Sounds delicious.
He made The Fifth Element and Leon the Professional.
Oh, we gotta add those to the list, especially Leon the Professional. Oh, what's his face?
Yeah,
Gordon from Batman.
Yeah.
He's so good as the psychopath. Oh, okay, Leon. Maybe we'll do that soon.
The soundtrack is Eric Serra. He's done a bunch of random soundtracks. It's a pretty interesting soundtrack. We get into it right off the bat with the opening. Is pretty cool. The cast: Scarlett Johansson as Lucy, Morgan Freeman, our pal, as Professor Norman, Choi Min Sik, Sik, I think, is Mr. Jang. How do you pronounce that?
I'm gonna say Jang. I think
Jang.
Mr. Jang says, "Stay here."
Yes. And Amir Waked as Pierre Del Rio, the incompetent cop.
Oh God, yeah.
The one production note really is that this was all the fight scenes, and you'll love this, were filmed almost completely with practical effects, wire work, and rotating sets, and they did a lot of that stuff on set. So it definitely has that look to it. And I think we should jump right in.
Yes. And again, underrated, underappreciated. If you have not seen Lucy, watch it immediately. I think it's on one of the streaming services. It's so good. And yeah, it's like not marketed the way you think it's going to be. And again, it's a lot of what we bring up in this podcast. So let's get into it. The movie opens. We got these blue cells dividing, and we see a prehistoric ape drinking from the river. Essentially, I guess this is like the dawn of mankind, right? A voice tells us life was given to us 1 billion years ago, and what have we done with it?
And I have to stop you already.
Yep, go ahead.
I have to stop you already, and just say that's untrue. The fact of, so it was actually like 3.5 billion years ago that life.
Oh, so it wasn't life was given to us 1 billion years ago.
No.
It was 3.5 billion. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, life on Earth started, single cell organisms and things like that about 3.7 billion years ago. This movie, just because we've learned with this movie, just because Morgan Freeman says it, you're going to believe it.
Well, I think Lucy says it.
Yes.
So maybe this was before she developed 100% use of her brain, was when she made that statement. Maybe she wasn't fully there yet.
Well, I'm going to say we might as well. We're spoiling this whole movie. You haven't
Go
seen
ahead.
Movie,
yeah. Who cares? Yeah.
I'm going to say that narration of her is from later in the movie, because when we meet her in the beginning, she doesn't seem that thoughtful.
No, she seems quite ditzy and not all there in the beginning.
Yeah. Party animal. And she meets her great boyfriend, Richard. But I'm going to say this narration is from the end. But I mean, this movie, we're going to get a lot of science from our buddy Morgan Freeman. And, Most of it is not true.
Oh, damn. That breaks my heart because I was really hoping you get okay. Yeah. This is going to be like me with Chef Brian arguing about food.
Yeah,
I was
but I mean, we
really
get the
hoping.
cool Cell Division opening, that really cool music, and
Yeah.
then we see Lucy. Right?
Uh,
That's
yes.
Lucy.
Yeah, well, they show us what have we done with the last 3.5 billion, not billion years, and there's
Yeah.
just images of humans creating architecture and transportation and technology, and then yes, we are introduced to Lucy, our main character. She's spoken to. Well, yeah, that was also Lucy drinking out of the river, but we are introduced to our actual main character, Lucy, who's with this dude in a cowboy hat, Richard.
Yes.
She's not really paying attention to him. She looks like she's kind of buzzed. She's sipping on her coffee, and Richard's like, "It's easy. Get in, get out. It's all done. It's easy." She's like, "Why don't you do it yourself?" He's like, they wouldn't expect someone as hot as you to show up to deliver this case. It'll blow his mind." This shady guy is holding the briefcase, Richard. She's like, "What's in it?" He's like, "Don't be paranoid. Don't you trust me?" And then I love the shots. It's them in the club drinking and taking shots and making out and just partying their ass
Yeah,
off.
they've known each other for a week.
Yeah. So Lucy's telling Richard she likes him, but she's got a lot of stuff to do. She tries to leave. He's like, "Don't leave." A few days ago, he was in a museum and he learned that the first woman ever was named Lucy.
Right.
Vertebrae, is this true? Please don't break my heart and tell me it's not.
So that shot of Lucy is based off of a 3.2 million year old fossil. And this fossil kind of showed how humans would have developed to bipedalism, walking on two instead of fours. And it shows that they were, doing that kind of before we thought. They were walking around before the earliest stone tools were made, or their brains even got bigger. So it kind of shows early stages of becoming humans. So the timing is off. It's based off a fossil, so I guess I could assume it's first woman. I've not, in the research I did, it didn't say specifically that, but we'll assume that part is correct on that one.
I hope her name was Lucy. We get this image of an ape inside of a glass case, and the name is Lucy. She doesn't
that
care.
part is correct.
That's
but
correct.
I don't
okay.
know. They said first female. I don't know if that's
What? Yeah, close
exactly.
enough.
Yeah.
She tries to leave, and Richard tells her he had a falling out with this guy. He cannot deliver the case himself. If she goes, it'll solve his problem. Go up to reception, ask for Mr. Jang to come down. He'll come, take the briefcase, you smile, and leave. Then we get this awesome shot of a mouse approaching a trap with a piece of cheese. So cool.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "What's in the case?" He won't tell her. He wants to open it. It's locked. She wants to open it. Only Mr. Jang has the code. He's just a delivery boy. She's like, "How much you get paid to drop this off?" $1,000. He'll split it with her. She still doesn't give a shit. She goes to leave. He grabs her arm and cuffs her to the briefcase. She starts freaking out. She's like, "Take it off." He's like, I had no choice. There's nothing I could do. I'll wait for you here outside. And she is pissed. Then we cut to this other brilliant shot. Leopards hunting antelope. So sick.
Cheetahs.
Is it cheetahs? Cheetahs.
Yeah,
I'm Lucy walks into the lobby of the hotel. She walks to the front desk, asks for Mr. Jang. The man at the front immediately looks nervous. Cut to our antelope being hunted as these. What are they? They're not leopards?
No,
cheetahs. I'm going to write cheetah as the cheetah is stalking the antelope. And we get this tense moment of the man at the front desk demanding to give Mr. Jang her name. She's looking outside at Richard. Man at the desk says, Mr. Jang says, "Stay right here." She wants to sit down, and the man says, Mr. Jang says, "Stay right here." And even the dude behind the desk looks nervous. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Elevator door opens, and 4 big Asian gang members walk out with another scary-looking guy.
Totally badass looking.
The shots of them walking are cut with the shots of the cheetahs approaching the antelope. So sick. Lucy looks outside to Richard.
Poor Richard.
And much like Vertebrae33 and the Batman, this immediately brings me to my
milking of the alpacas moment.
Oh.
If you have a different one, I want you to hit me with it when I get to it. Pop! Richard's stomach explodes. He's been shot. Blood sprays all over the glass. We're talking this movie is 2.5 minutes in, and the shit is hitting the fan. And much like The Mist, once it hits, it keeps hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting. And that's one of the things I love about this movie.
And broad daylight.
In broad daylight, your favorite. Blood sprays all over the glass. Richard got shot. He's dead. The whole lobby panics. This shot is intertwined with the cheetahs chasing the antelope and killing the antelope.
Yep.
The gang members pick up Lucy, scoop her into the elevator, and the doors close. Horrifying. They bring her up to Mr. Jang's room. And if that wasn't horrifying enough, the first thing Lucy sees is a man's feet on the floor in the room next to her, twitching, covered in blood, and she pukes. And out from the bathroom walks one of my favorite movie villains. Possible nomination for the In Madness Villain Hall of Fame next to Miss Carmody in The Mist. We have Mr. Jang, one of the scariest dudes ever.
Yeah.
Got this $10,000 suit on, stepping over these dead bodies, which he clearly just killed. He's got goggles on for some reason. They're just covered in blood. He raises his hand to take the glasses off of his face, and his hands are just drenched with blood, like he was digging around in their bodies. Like,
yeah, this guy gets involved. He's not just a boss standing off to the side, which makes him even scarier.
He loves it.
I mean, I don't know what he thinks wiping his hands really quickly and all that does for any of that. And this actor, Choi, is a huge superstar in Asia. And the director on like the making of said he's DiCaprio multiplied by Tom Cruise.
That's what's up.
And that you can see it because he's so commanding. He's not speaking any English. And he's just completely commanding that scene as soon as he shows up.
Of every scene. Yeah, he is, and all the dudes are following him like he is the guy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the thugs walks over to him with his filthy, bloody hands, and the guy's got a bottle of water. And just out in the open, in the middle of the floor, he's pouring the water, and Mr. Jang is just washing his hands, and the blood's just going everywhere, all over everything. Lucy's freaking out, begging him not to kill her. They bring over to a phone. Mr. Jang calls a man, and he translates. Mr. Jang wants to know what's in the case. Lucy has no idea. Mr. Jang grabs a notepad, writes down 140, piece of paper, and he walks away. All the thugs walk away. It's the code to open the case. All the thugs walk back out, and they're holding blast shields, SWAT style, towards Lucy. She wants to know what's in the case, and the man on the phone says, nothing dangerous.
Easy for you to say.
Mr. Jang yells, and all the men pull their guns and point them at Lucy. She opens the case, and it's 4 plastic pouches filled with blue powder.
Mm-hmm. And the code, before we get past the code, so the briefcase code 140 is the former Twitter character count. Right, that's how many characters you could do on Twitter. It was the age of Job from the Bible when he died.
Did you look up interesting facts on the number 140?
I was wondering if this was like
symbolic,
why they picked it. Did it mean something, right? Mm-hmm. It's the BPM of dubstep music. And then lastly, in angelic numbers, it means new beginning, fresh starts, and exciting opportunities.
Okay, so that's...
I don't think it was an accident that he picked.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Jang is relieved. He walks back in the room. He cuts open one of the pouches and with the straw pulls out a few of these blue particles. The thugs grab a drug addict from the back room. They make him inhale the blue powder, and this dude falls into a psychotic trance.
Yeah, this guy's disgusting looking. Right?
They
totally
pulled him out of Skid Row. Yeah, he's got yellow teeth and just he's messed up. He begins laughing like a maniac. The thugs begin laughing at him. And Mr. Jang pulls out his pistol and pops the drug addict in his head.
Yeah.
He looks at Lucy and he wants to offer her a job. The thug knocks her out. Cut to Morgan Freeman giving his speech.
Go ahead, give it, Shawn.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to give it like me. I'm not going to give it like you. I hope you have your part where you're going to give it like you. If life started 1 billion years ago, we will have to wait 400,000 years to see the formation of the first nerve cells. This is where life as we know it begins. We see the evolution of animals, how they eat, how they mate, how they survive. Animals have been around for millions of years, yet most species only use 3 to 5% of their brain capacity. Not till humans begin do we begin to use 10% of our brain capacity. So funny that I could not read that sentence with my limited brain capacity. And we see cavemen scraping rocks together.
And we'll believe anything Morgan Freeman says.
Okay, so I thought that was true. I thought I grew up in school learning that. Don't humans use 10% of their brain?
That is not a fact. It's based off a myth. And they're not really sure kind of where it came from, but we use all parts of our brains. So, but you don't use all parts of your brains at the same time. So, for example, while we're recording this podcast, right? You're talking.
Not this part of my brain.
What's that?
I'm using this part of my brain for the podcast. This part of my brain is personal time.
Right. But while you're talking to me, you might also be thinking, man, tomorrow I got to do whatever. And you're tapping your finger and you're moving around. So you're using parts of your brain to do all of those functions. So you're always using all of your brain. You may use less when you're sleeping. You may not you're not walking, right? Unless you're sleepwalking. So you're not using it, but we use all parts of our brain. The brain, it represents 3% of our body weight, but it uses 20% of our body's energy. So it's a big deal, obviously. But yes, that is a complete myth, the 10% brain myth. So the entire movie based on the fact that you're going to continue to increase, and we can get into it, your brain power, and obviously do all these like superhero things. We knew that part wasn't true, but it's based off. The premise of it is not a fact at all, but it sounds great.
I want it to be true so bad.
You want it to be true because Morgan Freeman said it.
I believed every word of this. I just wanted this so bad. I'm like, aliens have telepathy, so they can use more of their brain. Of course, dolphins more, and they have sonar. Of course, so 100% I could make people dance if I wanted to. Yeah.
The day that Shawn the Butcher got sad, he had listened to me talk about brains. And he knew he was smarter than me, but not a dolphin. He was sad. Super sad.
Shawn the Gullible.
Hey, I mean, this is, and I say it, but like how many times have you heard that?
I mean, I feel like I heard it in 5th grade or some shit.
All the time. So it's one of those weird things that just gets handed down. Everybody's like, we're not smart enough. Unfortunately, Shawn, we're using all of the brain that we possibly can use. So
How
if
depressing.
we're unhappy with what we have.
Great. This is the best I can do with this brain.
This is the tops. This is what you got.
Great. No way.
So
I'm going to chainsaw my brain off. You've done me no good.
But it's a cool premise. I would say that I almost wish this movie based the drug, and we'll get to it, off of something else, because I feel like they could have gone, it's okay to go real supernatural when you base it in the science.
Yeah.
In the beginning, and we have this awesome presentation and dolphins and all that. But again, I will stick by it. If Morgan Freeman says it and he says it in a movie,
it's the word of God.
I'm going to believe it.
I got it.
until I look it up.
So he says, once humans use 10% of their brain, we see all the things we accomplish: airplanes, cars, machines, stock market, rocket ships, Rubik's Cube. And then finally ends with the shot of our caveman scraping the rocks together and creating fire. Freeman says the only living being that uses its brain better than us is the dolphin, which uses 20% of its brain capacity. This allows it to have echolocation, which is more efficient than any sonar. It did not invent it, it developed it. Can we conclude that humans are more concerned with having than being? And then Lucy wakes up. She's in bed. She's got bloody gauze wrapped around her. She looks at the bed, next to the bed, and there's medical equipment everywhere. The thugs walk in. They throw her clothes. She walks out to the main room. There's Mr. Jang. She asks what they've done to her. And this English-speaking doctor walks out of a side room, and he's like, nothing, just a little horizontal slit. It'll be gone in a month. Scar will be invisible.
Yeah.
Says, don't worry, we didn't harvest your organ. We just slipped a package into your tummy. A new drug that kids in Europe are going to love called CPH4.
That's what makes me nervous about doctors. There's always an evil doctor.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me? Everybody's evil. There's probably way more than one evil doctor, I'll tell you what.
No, but I'm saying in these movies, there's always like one evil doctor who'll just do anything.
Anything. For drug money, doctors will do anything. Some doctors. Some of these evil Mr. Jang's doctors. He doesn't like the name CPH4 and asks Lucy if she has any better suggestions. Weirdo. The rest of our guests arrive. They've all had packages inserted in their stomachs. They're all given passports and plane tickets. And upon arrival, their guys are going to recover their merchandise. If you are tempted to warn the authorities, we have the names and addresses of the families of all of you. Bon voyage. They throw a bag on Lucy's head.
So can we assume that these other guys were delivery men, much like Richard? Right? So all guys. She's the only girl. And it would have been Richard that's there in this exact situation with these other guys. So they've picked them up as people that are desperate for money. I don't know how do they recruit these guys, Shawn?
People in need. Yeah. I mean, desperate times, desperate measures, I'm sure.
There's no way to get out of that situation alive.
No.
Right?
No. I mean, no. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, you know you're going to die. You have to. They're not going to give a shit. They're not going to let you live after you transport it. Like, yeah, that's not the purpose is not to leave witnesses, you know, like.
So just much like the Menu, right? Scarlett Johansson is swapped out and she's in that, our hero.
She's Margot.
Is in that situation.
Margot with superpowers.
Yeah. And we can safe to say that Richard is the worst boyfriend she's ever had.
I mean, he's only been around for a week and he wears a cowboy hat. He looks kind of a prick for the most part. And I just do not like his vibe at all. The fact that she fell for him is nothing against you if you're wearing a cowboy hat listening in Madness, but just watch Lucy and look at Richard for like 30 seconds and be like, this guy's a prick.
I love that that's what bothers you, not that he handcuffed her to a briefcase.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, he's a scumbag for all the things that he does, but like right off the bat, just before, I'm sure she could have seen how much of a dick he was before he handcuffed her to a briefcase. But then we cut to Morgan Freeman's speech. For primitive beings like us, life has one single purpose: gaining time. It's going through time. Going through time seems to be the only real purpose of the cells in our bodies. We have two choices: immortality or reproduction. If the habitat is not favorable or nurturing, we see all these natural disasters, global warming, acts of God. The cell will choose immortality, in other words, self-sufficiency and self-management. But on the other hand, if the habitat is favorable, I mean, shots of beautiful forest and oceans, they will choose to reproduce. And we see animals getting it on and humans getting it on.
And I will say,
none of
false.
this happened. Yeah.
False.
No one reproduces. Damn it. What else? Yeah.
Right? I mean, if in unfavorable conditions you don't reproduce, this planet would be empty. Right? Who's in quote unquote favorable positions all the time to reproduce? They're showing natural disasters. They happen left and right. Right?
Yeah.
There was a baby boom coming out of COVID. So I think that's just, I didn't understand that part at all. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed this movie.
I was going to ask because I
did. I enjoyed the heck out of this movie. It was when I really did, but it was when you peel the first layer off of it,
it starts to fall apart.
Okay, and which is fine and an enjoyable movie. But I would say as compared to previous movies we've done on the podcast, you peel the first layer and there's another layer.
It's so friggin' heartbreaking to me because I've seen this movie so many times because I love it so much. And I mean, I'm sure my stupid ass, I don't think I believed every word, but I believed a majority of it. It was like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like blowing my mind. Like, this is what I'm talking about. I always wanted to know, like, what's out there and what can the brain do? And I thought that Morgan Freeman was giving me the answers, and I didn't know until right now on this podcast. You're like,
He's giving you answers.
Stop.
He's
Incorrect.
giving you answers.
Yeah, they're all wrong.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie though. And listen, you know me well enough now to know that I'm hard pressed to. I'm not a negative person when it comes to art or movies or anything. So there is so much of this movie that I really really liked. It's just the kind of their quote unquote facts
are full of shit.
Yeah. Which is fine because I would venture to say that a lot of movies we've enjoyed through our lives,
are full
if
of
we're
shit.
not looking at them under this microscope like this, fall apart when you look at them that way. And I would say that if you get,
I mean, look at Signs.
Yeah, if you get an emotional response from this movie, which I definitely did, and reaction to the ending and just the thoughts that it puts in your head, I think that's the most important thing. When I was done watching this movie, I was thinking about it for a while.
Good. All right. That's what I was going to ask because I was like, oh my God, I think he hated this movie.
No, I mean, I watched it 3 times and I did. I just, if I just watched it and wasn't doing research for the podcast, then I'm going to dive in and look and be like, oh, what are more facts about 10% of the brain? And then it's like the first 10 articles are about, if you type in like Lucy and 10% of the brain, it's like there's like scientific journals that are like another movie based off of falsehoods.
Yeah,
like, oh,
what a bummer. I liked it better when I wasn't researching it and I just believed Morgan Freeman. He says that way when they die, they hand down essential information and knowledge to the next cell, which hands it down to the next cell. And we have shots of animals and children being birthed. Knowledge and learning are handed down through time.
Love that. And that was a really good Morgan Freeman you did there too.
Thank you. I wasn't even really doing Morgan Freeman. I was just getting really dramatic with it. Cut to Lucy's bag. She's bagged up. She's freaking out. She's in a car. She's traveling. She's wondering how she's going to do this. She keeps saying to herself, I have time to think about it on the plane. Just save time. You're alive. That's all that matters. Just wait. Save time.
And this is cool. She's talking about time. We just heard Morgan Freeman say it. Right? That's all they're concerned with. And she's clearly, that's all she's reminding herself. I got time.
Now she's locked up. She's in some holding cell with some thugs. They're feeling her
How
up.
did she get there, Shawn?
The thugs brought her there.
But why?
She had because they have to wait. What? Well, they got to bring her on the plane, right? So maybe they got to take her there and hold her there until like she's ready for her flight.
I guess.
Maybe they weren't bringing her right to the airport. Maybe they had to hold her like somewhere before the flight.
So these are I didn't get it. I was confused if this was like a different group, a
different group of thugs. No, I think it's like
Uber was hijacked.
No, I think maybe like the higher class thugs were like, oh, we got to hold her until so they held her with the lower class thugs, and like we're gonna pick her up when it's time for her flight.
But why they beat her up then and kick her in the stomach?
Well, that these thugs seem a little stupid. I don't understand why they would do that.
Yeah.
She's locked up. She's in a holding cell with some thugs. They're feeling her up. They're being scumbags, and Lucy shoves one of the guys off. But he then slaps her and kicks her in the gut 3 times. And her stomach wound starts bleeding. We get a look inside her body, and we see the pouch open up and the blue crystals going into Lucy's bloodstream and traveling all throughout her body.
We get a massive cellular firework display right here.
Very cool.
This is really cool.
Very color out of space like.
Yes.
Lucy starts seizuring up the wall to the ceiling. The lights are sparking. Her body is floating away, but she's chained to the wall, and she's pulling herself back on the chain to get back to the floor, and then she slams herself against the wall. She gets slammed against the wall and knocks herself out. 20%.
I just ruined all your percentages.
Allegedly. Freeman says, imagine what our life would be like if we could access 20% of our brain's capacity. This would give us access to and control of our own body. It's not proven by science, just hypothesis. But Greeks and Egyptians and Indians knew all about cells before microscopes. And many people thought Darwin was a fool for his theory of evolution. It's up to us to push the rules and laws and go from evolution to revolution. There are more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. Is that true?
That I didn't look up.
We have a gigantic network of information to which we have almost no access. Student asks what the next stage would be. Control of other people. And we get shots of magicians making women levitate.
So we're to assume that if we get enough brain power, our cells begin to communicate with cells in somebody else's body and sort of take them over, become the boss of their cells?
Yes, master other people.
Okay. So
that's what Morgan tells me.
Other people, because that has cells, and we master the air because she's flipping around up in the air in the holding cell. Okay.
He says, but for that, we need to access 40% of our brain's capacity. After control of ourselves and others would come control of matter. But now we're entering the realm of science fiction where we know nothing more than a dog who looks at the moon. Student asks, what happens if we unlocked 100%? And he says, I have no idea.
We're about to make a movie about it.
Lucy wakes up and her eyes are blue.
Yeah.
She's stone-faced. She sits in the chair looking directly at the wall. A thug walks in. She spreads her legs. The thug smiles. He puts his gun on the table. He takes off his belt. She grabs his hand, grabs his belt, flips him in the air while taking his belt, rips his belt around the table, pulls it to her, grabs the gun, and escapes from the room.
And I'll tell you two things about this scene. One, the blue eyes, I think is a clear nod to Dune. When people with the spice in Dune, their eyes, to the Fremen and stuff like that, have the blue eyes. I would also say that to fool this horny kidnapper, I don't think she needed to access 40%, 20% of her brain, right? Like 2% of her brain would have been fine to lure this guy in.
But she did the cool whippy thing with the belt and the gun, and it was all perfectly planned out.
You don't need an increased brain power to fool a man, I don't think, in that situation.
Not with Lucy.
No.
And this is another cool scene that I was going to make the milking, but I mean, it's too late. I already did my milking. But she marches into the kitchen and she goes, hey, and pops off 7 shots at 7 guys and kills every single one of them in 1 shot. Badass.
And then eats all their food too.
Sits down at the table and starts because you know why? Because it's known as a fact. When the brain starts accessing more, you got to eat more to feed the brain.
Yes.
Yeah, you know that. It's fact. It's true.
Yeah. This is Shawn Facts. That'll be a new voiceover that we'll have.
Oh, Shawn Facts. Everything incorrect. We see Lucy shot in the arm. She digs inside the wound with her hand and pulls out the bullet and drops it in a glass and walks away.
So she's impenetrable too.
Badass.
She's kind of like a Wolverine / Xavier combo.
Which is what happens when you can access more than 10% of your brain. Yeah. Clearly.
Yeah. Fact.
She grabs Shawn Fact. She grabs all their guns, goes outside, and 2 cab drivers asks for a ride. One of the guys says he doesn't speak English, and she shoots him in the leg. She points the gun at the other cab driver and says, take me to a hospital now. Inside the cab, she can hear other people's conversations from all the way down the street, all the way down the block. Now she's got hypersensitive hearing. Yes, like Wolverine. She is an X-Men. But not Black Widow. She's not Black Widow in this movie. She pulls up to the hospital. She walks right in with a gun and a silencer, and the letters are all in Korean in the hospital, but she can see them in English.
Mm-hmm.
She walks right into the operating room. She sees the surgeon working on a guy. She looks at the X-rays and shoots the guy on the operating table. She shoves him off. She tells the doctor there was nothing he could have done. The tumor already spread to his brain. And pointing at the surgeon, she says, "Somebody put a bag of drugs in me. I need you to remove it. It's leaking."
Yeah, and that surgeon, he takes his mask down to talk to her and like leaves it down and doesn't put it up till later. Like, what? Really?
Maybe it's shock, because that's such a cool moment when she does that. One of the nurses faints immediately. He wants to give her anesthesia. She's like, no anesthesia. She's pointing the gun at the surgeon. She says, "I need you to operate right now." While he's taking this bag out of her, she's calling her mom, and the surgeon's digging around inside of her stomach, and she's on the phone. She's like, "I can feel everything: space, air, vibrations, people. I can feel gravity. I can feel the rotation of the earth, the blood in my veins. I can feel my brain, the deepest parts of my memory." That's how I feel when I try to go to sleep when I'm stoned. I can hear my brain moving. She remembers the pain in her mouth when she had braces. She remembers stroking a cat. Her mom's like, "The cat, you were barely 1 year old. How do you remember that?" She says, "I can remember the taste of your milk in my mouth." She tells her mom she loves her. The doc pulls the bag out, asks what it is, and Lucy says it is CPH4.
And we're going to stop right there.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to say one thing. She mentions to her mom something about 1,000 kisses.
Yes.
Okay. So how old do you think she is in this movie?
I'd say 20 something.
20 something. So I'd venture to say that on average in the first like 6 years of a child's life, a parent probably kisses them every single day.
Yeah.
I think you would get to 1,000 by age 3.
Quickly.
Yeah. Right. With a newborn baby. I think you're going to beat 1,000. Also too, like when our brain is growing, you would actually, if your brain was rapidly growing, you would actually forget things from the past. You wouldn't gain past knowledge like kids do as their brains grow, right? That's why they don't remember things from the past. So that's not a fact. I feel like I'm being mean about it, but I'm not.
You sound like Chef Brian when he's talking about all the food people he can't stand.
They're just the gnarly bits I had. And
we need to know what's
this
fact.
is what I had when I looked it up. And CPH4 is not real. So the director claims it's based off a real molecule. And as much as I could tell from a couple articles, it's more likely based off a group of complex enzymes that women have in their bodies when they're pregnant. So it's sort of loosely based off of something, and they ran with it.
The doctor says pregnant women manufacture it in tiny quantities for a baby. It packs the power of an atomic bomb. It's what forms all the bones inside of a fetus's body. He didn't realize they succeeded in making a synthetic version of it. He says, "I'm surprised you're still alive." And Lucy says, "Not for long." Wild. I'm all in on this movie.
Yeah, and this is a ticking clock. So, I don't know how many days it lasts. Imagine if it lasted 7 days. That'd be kind of crazy.
Right. That's fall right into our universe. What the hell's going on? She leaves the hospital. She can see the energy flowing through a tree and the roots. We see Mr. Jang getting his hand tattooed, relaxing. He's got cucumbers on his eyes. In walks Lucy like a friggin' Neo from the Matrix.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Guns in each hand, slow motion, popping thugs. She shoots through a door 5 times, open the door, and on the other side is 5 thugs. She shot them all through the door without looking at them. They're all dead. She walks up to Mr. Jang. She tells the tattooist to leave. Lucy sits on Mr. Jang's lap, pulls out 2 knives, and plunges them into his hands. He jumps awake. Lucy goes, "Learning is a painful process. I remember the sound of my own bones growing, a grinding under the skin. Everything is different now." Her whole life, she wondered who she was and what she was doing. And now, with reaches to the furthest axis of her brain, she realizes how primitive it is. There are all obstacles like this pain you're experiencing. It's blocking you from understanding. All you know is pain. Where are the others carrying the drugs? I need the rest of it. Whoo!
She's bringing the heat.
She touches Mr. Jang's brain and reads his mind like Brandon Lee in The Crow.
And bam, we have we always end up with a Star Wars reference. Now we
Go
have
ahead.
now we have a Star Trek reference. So I'm watching this and I'm like, she's using the Vulcan mind meld from Star Trek. And it's like this touch technique that Vulcans use, and they merge their mind with the essence of another mind. In the original Star Trek movie, the 1979 film, they do it to assess Spock, but it's called the Vulcan mind meld. And the first time I saw this, I was like, oh my god, she's using the Vulcan mind meld. So she's got all the powers. We've even got powers from alternate universes.
I was going to say something before and then I forgot what I was going to say, but now I just remembered it when you said that the more you learn, like you forget things.
Yeah.
There's a great episode of Married with Children where they're trying to get Kelly Bundy to learn a bunch of stuff, and you see all this stuff like prying into one end of her ear, and then at the other end of her ear, all the other stuff is like coming out of it. It's very funny. That's exactly what I thought of. I got to post that. Shout outs to you if you watch Married with Children. But Lucy touches Mr. Jang's head, and she's going through the passages of his brain to the shady doctor, giving the other drug mules their tickets, and she can see where everybody's going: Berlin, Paris, Rome. She walks away, and Mr. Jang lets out a blood-curdling scream. Lucy goes to her friend's house. She gives her a hug, and then she gives her a strange look. She asks to borrow her computer. Lucy is typing 1,000,000 miles an hour, kind of like me, not like Vertebrae.
No, yeah, that was you. That was you. That for sure. That was you typing. Why didn't she kill Mr. Jang?
I mean, because he's not a threat to her.
But when she got the info, he's gonna be a threat. If he's alive, he's coming at her.
Yeah, and she should have seen the end coming. Well, not really, because she's not at 100% yet. Yeah, I mean, she killed all his thugs. She didn't kill him. I wonder why.
I mean, I guess we don't have the tension at the end if he's not.
Yeah, I mean, I need him, or else he's not in the Hall of Fame with Miss Carmody. She gives her friend a strange look. She has to borrow a computer. She's typing 1,000,000 miles an hour. There's 1,000 documents she's going through. Her friend asks to guess where she went on a date last night, and Lucy mouths it the same time her friend does. 4 Seasons Royal Suites, and we made love all night. So now Lucy can read her friend's mind. She finds and calls Morgan Freeman, Samuel Norman.
Professor Norman.
She says, I just read all your research on the human brain. We need to meet. She did this in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Freeman laughs and says, all of my research? He's stunned. I find that hard to believe. I must have written, and she goes, 6,734 pages. I can recite them to you by heart if you wish. He asks if this is a joke, and she pops up on his TV, and he's stunned. She says she read his theory on the brain's capacity, and it's rudimentary, but he's on the right track.
Nice.
So that's alluding to what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah, rudimentary. But I mean, yeah. His life work, though, she's calling it rudimentary.
Yep, rudimentary. I love this line. My cells are reproducing at a phenomenal speed, several million per second. I doubt I'll last more than 24 hours. I've had CPH4. It allowed me to use 100% of my brain capacity. Right now, I'm at 28%. I'm colonizing my own brain. So sick. What a dope line.
Yeah.
She's talking fast and robotic. She's a completely different person than like the ditzy girl she was in the beginning, where she was kind of like,
she's very much super robotic in this and on a mission.
Morgan Freeman is stunned. I'm just going to call him Morgan Freeman. God damn
it. I know. You don't want to call him Professor Norman.
She can control her own metabolism as well as other people's bodies. She can also control magnetic and electric waves, TV, phone, radio, and starts messing with all the equipment in his house. She doesn't feel pain, fear, desire. She is fading away, becoming less human.
What are you doing, Shawn, if you got this power that she's got?
Man, but if I'm going to die in 24 hours and
so what are you doing?
I don't know, man. I mean, you want to do good, but what do you do with all this power? I mean, pass it on. I don't know. Yeah, like I don't know. You want to do good, but I mean, yeah. But then you take advantage. You're like, I'm just gonna make $1 million in 2 seconds somehow. I don't know. What do you do with all that knowledge? What do you do?
I don't know. I mean, what she does is pretty cool. If her essence is still around, that's kind of neat.
Yeah, and essentially, yeah, the ending is so weird. We'll get
We're
into it.
almost there. This movie flies by.
Yeah, all her knowledge is exploding in her brain. She doesn't know what to do with it. Morgan Freeman says,
Mm,
pass it on.
yeah.
There's no higher purpose. Pass it on like any simple cell going through time. She says, I'll be at your door in 12 hours. Her friend comes out of the shower. Lucy printed her prescription. Your kidneys aren't functioning. Your liver's failing. Take better care of yourself. You'll be okay. Turns around and leaves. Now she's at the airport. Her face is all over the news from the hospital shooting. She sees this as she's walking through the airport and changes the color of her hair while she's walking.
Yeah, she's another X-Men. She's the shapeshifter one.
The Morpher one, yeah. The blue chick.
Yeah. Mystique?
Can't remember her name.
Mystique?
Yeah, Mystique. Yeah, I'm being a terrible Marvel fan right now.
Score one for me.
She's calling the cop. She's telling the cop to write down everything she says with the pen to his left. He looks next to himself, bugged out. She's like, there's no cameras. Hurry up. I have no time to waste. 30%. Freaked out, the cop is taking down her info. She tells the cop that the people are arriving in each place with the drugs and that he needs to recover them. A dog begins to approach her. She whips it a look, and it whimpers away.
Yeah.
Now she can scare the dogs.
At least the dog wasn't injured. We have a movie where the animal wasn't injured. See?
It's about friggin' time. That's another theme on this podcast. If you haven't heard our past episodes, lots of animals being tortured for some reason in these movies.
Yeah.
We see all the drug mules being stopped at the border and arrested. We got Lucy on the plane, 2 laptops, typing with each hand, going through an extraordinary amount of information.
This is Shawn on a plane. If you get on a plane and you're near Shawn, here he is working.
Oh, I love that amount of room on a plane. My God, I just was on a plane in the middle seat. Are you kidding me? Oh,
How'd you end up with the middle seat?
It was a long story. I don't want to get into it.
Man,
I usually pick the aisle seat. I didn't have the option to pick this time. It was terrible. No, I wish I had enough room to have 2 computers and type with both my hands. The man next to her is looking in amazement. The stewardess walks over, tells her to put the computers away. Lucy's like, wipe your nose. The stewardess is confused, but then her nose begins bleeding. Lucy's like, can I get some champagne? And then she closes her computers, gets a glass of champagne, and toasts to knowledge. 40%. She drinks, and in the glass is her tooth. Cut to Freeman's speech. If the habitat is not favorable or nurturing, Lucy coughs and more teeth come out. Morgan says that this cell will choose immortality. Her skin begins flaking away. She wipes at her hand and the flesh wipes off.
Yeah, it's cool. Dust. It's like dust or sand.
Self-sufficiency and self-management. Lucy is fading away. She runs to the bathroom. She tries closing the little knob door, but her fingers keep fading away to dust and she can't lock it. It's really cool. Her face begins to melt off. She opens the bag of CPH4 and she's munching on it, hungry hippo style, to get it inside of her body.
I don't understand why they're screaming at her to get. Can't they just get in that bathroom?
Yeah, or can't they just leave her the hell alone?
Right, but I think that there's like a key or something they have, right? They could just go in there if they had to.
There has to be.
Yeah.
Her body begins reforming and she explodes into streams of light, very much like Color Out of Space.
Yes, this very much like Color Out of Space.
Then she wakes up. Her eye blinks 4 or 5 times. One, it looks like an acid trip. The other 3 times, it looks like reptile eyes. And then the final one is her human eye.
Very cool.
50%. Lucy wakes up in a hospital. No one can believe she's awake. The doctor said he doped her up. She's walking out of the hospital and all the cops point their guns at her. Please put your hands up. She raises one hand and every cop except the one she called falls to the floor unconscious. She walks toward him and all the bullets fall out of his gun and she asks if he got the packets. He did.
And he's barely freaked out by this. He mentioned something later, but like he's barely freaked out by this.
No,
like
he's just standing there kind of freaked out, but not really.
Kind of, but not like, I don't know.
He's not playing it well.
No.
She walks off and he runs after her. They're driving and he's telling her how freaked out he was by her.
He says it, but it's like he's just like, I've seen a lot of things.
Just saying it, yeah.
Cop, you know, and this is more.
See, in this, I believe she's looking at people on their cell phones and she can see the cell phone signal out of their phone going to the satellites in the sky. It looks like the Matrix. I think it looks awesome.
But how can she?
Because she's using 50% of her brain.
I understand, but we were talking about cells. Did they also mean cell phones?
I mean, it's the signal. It gives off a signal that we can't see, but she can see it because she's using 50% of her brain. I believe every word of this movie. God, I'm so gullible. I was like, yeah, once you use 50% of your brain, you can see the signals, and she begins separating the cell phone signals, right? And then she finds the one she wants, and she's like zooms in on it like an iPhone.
It's an awesome visual. I would say I wish that they based it not on something from a human and just be some supersonic drug that they developed that does this to your brain. Like pull it completely away from developing your brain in the present, in the world we live in, and we can develop your brain more than you have because you have this crazy drug. Just like that one little piece. Then, because at first, the first time I watched it, I didn't even know what she was doing. I wasn't sure. I was like, is that essence off the people? Yeah, I feel stupid, but when you say it, it makes total sense.
Yeah. I thought that was friggin' mind blowing. And yeah, I mean, I want to believe that this is what happens when you could use more of your brain so much. She focuses on one of the signals and she puts it on the cops' radio. They found it's the thugs. They found all the drug mules who got arrested with their product. They're telling this to Mr. Jang. Thugs walk into the spot where the surgeons are going to take out the products from the drug mules. They shoot all the cops in the room. The thugs have their surgeons take out the packets from the mules. One of them speaks to a thug, and then he shoots him in the head.
All the cops. It's like 2 cops, and one guy goes to get sandwiches.
Yeah.
They had this major drug bust, right? Potential drug bust, and they only sent like 2 people, and one of the guys, as soon as they get there, like, and when he comes back, right, he's like, oh, I got you bacon. He's,
well, I forgot this had mayo. I thought I said no mayo. Lucy and the cop pull up to the hospital. The thugs are removing another package, and one of the guys tries to run, but the thugs shoot him in the back, and while he's sliding across the floor, Lucy stops him with her foot. All of the thugs point their guns at Lucy. She wants the drugs. The thugs approach her with their guns, and we cut to 60%. The thug walking away with the drugs gets blocked by an invisible wall, like a mime, when they're stuck in the box. He's touching this invisible wall, and he's very confused. Then all of the thugs get their guns thrown up to the ceiling. Now, one by one, they line up to fight Lucy, who's walking in their direction, and lifts all of them with her brain powers while they're swinging and not touching her. She walks up to the thug with the drugs, who is frozen in place, and plucks the briefcase out of his hands. She pulls the drugs out of the stomach of the man she stopped with her foot and puts it in the briefcase. She wants to leave, and the cop says he's no help to her. She tells him he is, and she kisses him and says he's a reminder. Adorable.
Are you, when those thugs are running at her, if you're like thug number 5 in a row and you've seen the other 4 get like tossed up in the air, are you still running towards her?
Still swinging in the air?
How hard is it? I don't know. How hard is it to get a thug job?
I mean, we've seen the twins in Batman. It must be very easy.
Yeah. I mean, I think I might check out for the day. What are they going to do? Track you down? It seems like they got their hands full with this person who can levitate people. So
Lucy character. I mean, listen, when you're working for a man as scary as Mr. Jang, I guess you give it your all.
Yeah.
All the while, the thugs are still suspended, swinging in the air. They leave the hospital, and Mr. Jang sees Lucy driving away and follows her. We see Freeman and all of his professor buddies at the university with the top men in their fields. He's on the phone with Lucy talking to her, but then she busts in the door. He wants to introduce her to everyone, but she already knows who they all are.
I love that because it's like, meet the new professors or the scientists. She's like, no, I know him. And I feel like it's an easy way to not introduce a whole bunch of new characters with 20 minutes left in the film. It's like, oh, I know you already. Don't worry about it.
Done.
Move forward.
60%.
Yeah.
This is Lucy. She's unlocked certain portions of her brain that offer access to previously unexplored cerebral zones. She has abilities. They're like, can you give us an example? And she grabs the guy's shoulder and says, your daughter Gabriel, age 6, died in a car accident. Blue car, leather seats, plastic bird hanging from the rear view. Crazy.
Absolutely, positively awful.
Crazy.
Couldn't she have just said, 2 days ago you had a tuna fish sandwich for lunch?
She had to lay the point down. She had
But
to
like
lay
the
the
most
hammer
brutal
down.
thing, the most awful thing that's happened in that guy's life. Just point out something from his vacation. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
something. Yeah, you have a bunion on your middle toe.
Yeah. Remember when you lost your credit card in the
Yeah,
Bahamas? You know, like
yeah.
I
She
don't
went
know.
deep, but it's that emotion. She's losing her human. That's the thing. She's losing humanity.
Yeah.
That's why she needs the cop as a reminder, because she's a robot. She's
Oh, there you go.
becoming.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I'm
go
supporting
with
Lucy.
that.
I got Lucy's back.
No, that's not when you said that. That sounds reasonable.
Okay, I like that. Finally,
She's cold
13
and
episodes in,
calculating.
and I have a good point. The man breaks down crying. The thugs and Mr. Jang find Lucy. The thugs are telling Mr. Jang she's a witch. Bruja.
Mm.
Mr. Jang wants her dead. Lucy knows they are coming. She's talking to the colleagues. How did you unlock this knowledge? Electrical impulses. Every cell talks to every other cell. They exchange 1,000 bits of information between them per second. Cells group forming a giant web of communication, which in turn forms matter. She's fluctuating her hand. And like a mushroom trip. It's got these trails and waves. Another hand pops out of her hand and begins waving around. Then
Little
changes.
matrixy.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then changes to a deformed hand and a webbed hand with claws. Cells take one form, reform, deform, makes no difference. It's all the same. I mean, is this true? This is not. I think I want this to be true. I want this all to be 100% legit. It's so cool the way it's explained, and I just love. There's not been a movie. I always thought the 10% thing was true. I always wanted to know what would happen with 100%. There's never really been a movie that they focused on like, this is what would happen if you use 100%. I love the human element. I love the fact that it was a drug element that gave her access to it. I think it's so friggin' cool.
I agree. I think it's an awesome premise.
Yeah, I just
sure.
wish it was true.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, I thought they had scientists working on this and they finally unlocked the like secrets of the universe. God, I suck. Yeah. So we cut to Mr. Jang and the thugs are in suits in slow motion like Reservoir Dogs entering the university. Lucy says humans consider themselves unique, so they rooted their whole theory of existence on their uniqueness. One is their unit of measure, but it is not. All systems we put into place are a mere sketch. 1 + 1 = 2, and that's all we've learned. She holds up a pen that begins floating in the air. 1 + 1 is never equal to. There are no numbers and no letters. The pen begins multiplying and trailing and becoming infinite and changing shape. We've codified our existence to bring it down to human size, make it comprehensible. We created a scale to forget its unfathomable scale. And that's what I'm talking about. Like,
I agree. I that part right there. So I think that part, if we stop right there, is just amazing that we're going to create a system to break things down so our brains can comprehend it. So us as humans can comprehend it. It's no different than if you actually just sat for a second and thought, here we are recording a podcast on this rock in space, you know, all these other things going on and the vastness of space and where do we come from and all of these questions. That's where I say this movie then pulls me in. You know, I'm okay with, you know, the proliferation, can I say that word?
holy shit.
Of Shawn facts throughout this film. I'm fine.
They're
fine
Morgan facts. They're Freeman facts, which I am taking and writing in scripture.
I'm fine with that. But because it's these parts that get you thinking about just how everything is that we set up to understand life, how we have to break things into little digestible morsels to really truly comprehend it.
Yeah,
right? Or
like,
you're probably going to go crazy.
so and I remember as a kid thinking, like, what was around, like, before the Big Bang? What created nothingness? What created space? And, like, you think of the vastness, and it's just mind-boggling, which is why I brought up Neil deGrasse Tyson, because I have been watching or rewatching this show called Cosmos. I'll go into this
Mhm.
really quick because it is baffling. And again, I'm taking everything Neil deGrasse Tyson says as fact because he's way more credible than Morgan Freeman. Neil deGrasse Tyson is a legitimate scientist. But in the beginning of this Cosmos episode, right, and I'm gonna make this really quick, he's talking about the galaxy and just our Milky Way. And then the Milky Way is just our thing, and that's our planets. But then outside the Milky Way, there's even more. And then outside that, there's even more. And then he gets into this thing where it goes out and further, and it zooms out further and further, and then it goes into a little bubble, and then it's a million little bubbles, and like they think that whole thing is just one of a million, and then it's just flowing, and there's even more, and it's like cells flowing through a vein, and it's like, and then he goes, "Are you feeling small yet?" And it's just
Yeah.
it's unfathomable, and
Yes.
that's how I
Mind-blowing.
feel when she's talking about this unit of measure and all that.
Right. And we have to, to be able to comprehend these things, we have to break them down into small situations. Right. It's like when you're thinking about your own life, if you're constantly thinking about next Thursday, now it really, you're not living in the present. So it does go back to what Morgan Freeman said, Professor Norman, about time and concern with having time. So are we always concerned with having time? Yes. I would argue we're concerned with the past and what we might have done wrong in the past and what we're going to do in the future. And right,
Time running out.
and time's running out. And that is the quest that every religion has, sought, which is to stay present. Right. They want to know what's going on and what happens in the afterlife and all that. I get that. People can question me on that. But I would say most religions are based on the present, how we behave in the present. And being present is a really difficult thing to do. Right. It's very difficult.
Doing it now, and it's pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because right now I'm talking and Sean's like, oh, that's great. But tomorrow I think I'll get a cheese.
Oh, yeah, I have about 600 million things going on besides this podcast. Yeah.
But it's hard. And I would say that things like this, even this movie, afterwards, I think about it and I think, okay, how can you be more present when you're doing things? How can you just pour a cup of coffee and think of the coffee going into the cup, not just doing it to then get on a train and go somewhere or get in your car and drive somewhere. So I think we break things down into small facts to understand them. And if we just push them out constantly into the cosmos like that, like it gives you a weird feeling inside, does it not? To feel that insignificant and that small.
Yeah. Can't focus on that. Can't focus.
Can't
Just
focus.
gotta live. And the fact that they love the tangents. Here's the tangent. The fact that our entire existence, the human existence, is such a small fragment of the entirety of the universe.
Yes.
Like the dinosaurs were billions of years and like billions of years in between that. And just like our entire existence is a fraction of a moment in the scope of everything.
It kills humans to think that they don't matter all the time. Right? It just crush it. They crush under the weight of that. And I think if you could see what Lucy sees, then does all of that stuff matter anymore? It's like when you go through something in your life that's very upsetting and we all give pause and be like, oh, I got to enjoy myself more right now because you never know what could happen in the future and all these things. And it lasts for a little bit and it always just wears off. Lucy's having this extreme moment of this where she's just seeing everything.
And she doesn't know what to do. She's still confused. She needs Freeman's help to figure out what to do because that's what she called him. She knows everything, but she still called him for advice.
Yes.
Freeman says, if humans are not the unit of measure and the world isn't governed by mathematical law, what governs it? And I love this. Lucy shows behind her an image of a car. Speed up the image of the car going down the road, speed it up infinitely, and the car disappears. So what proof is there of its existence? My brain! It hurts. Time gives legitimacy to its existence. Time is the only true unit of measure. It gives proof to the existence of matter. Without time, we don't exist. Freeman says time is unity. In walks Mr. Jang, spraying bullets everywhere. The colleagues begin hooking Lucy up to IVs and injecting the CPH4 into her body. Freeman asks why she needs such a huge dosage. She says some cells in her body will fight and defend their integrity till the very end. In order to get the last few percent of that 100, she will have to force it to crack the cells open to their nucleus. Freeman says, all this knowledge, I don't think mankind is ready for it. We're so driven by power and profit. Given man's nature, it might bring us instability and chaos.
Agreed.
This sounds like the supermarket in the mist. I'm just saying.
Agreed.
Lucy says, ignorance brings chaos, not knowledge. I'll build a computer and upload all my knowledge to it, and I'll find a way for you to have access to it. Freeman says, I hope we will be worthy of your sacrifice. And the CPH4 pumps into Lucy's veins. The cops and the thugs have a standoff. The bags full of the blue substance drain into Lucy, and she shoots a light out of her mouth. Very Color Out of Space style.
Yes.
Lavinia! Cops and thugs begin firing at each other. 70%. Lucy's veins begin protruding. Her skin's changing color. Her hands begin elongating and turning into data and wires and this computer-like, venom-like, symbiote-like substance.
Yeah.
It's spreading like mold. She's looking for energy, matter, trying to connect with the computers.
Well, we know that because Morgan Freeman told us that. I'm not sure how he knows, but he told us that he narrates.
Oh, he knows because he's smart and he's a scientist. And I'm taking what he says at face value. The substance begins engulfing everything in the room. 80%.
Here we go.
Everything in the room cuts away to white, like they're in the Matrix. They're in purgatory in the upload training program. The colleagues are stunned. The substance begins forming a new generation computer. 90%. The thugs shoot at the cops and grab a rocket launcher and shoot it in the room Lucy is in. Everything explodes. And then in her chair, Lucy is transported to France. I think. It's the Eiffel Tower she's looking at, I think.
Yeah.
Her brain synapses fire, and now she's in her chair overlooking a cliff.
I mean, they're in France, but now she's outside.
Now she's at a cliff.
Yeah.
Then they fire off again, and she's in the middle of Times Square, New York City. And with her hand, she pauses time. And with one swipe, she rewinds it. You see Times Square being built throughout the years. She stops in the time of horse and carriage wagons, men in top hats, cobblestone roads. She rewinds further back, and we see a time before the city. Indigenous tribes. They're just staring at Lucy in her chair in the middle of a swamp. She rewinds further, and then we see it's tropical.
She swipes left.
She swipes left, yes. She looks up, and there's a goddamn pterodactyl. She looks ahead, and there's a dinosaur eating something. It looks at her and lunges at her, and she swipes one final time. And she's face to face with our prehistoric ape from the very beginning who was drinking out of the river, Lucy. They're both stunned to see each other. Human Lucy reaches out with one finger to ape Lucy, and like the goddamn 16th chapel, their fingers touch.
Wait. Is
it the 16th chapel?
It's the Sistine Chapel.
It's the Sistine? It's not the 16th?
Yeah.
Wait, what's the Sistine? I thought it was the 16th.
But I will say that they show early on in the movie, they show this famous fresco by Michelangelo, and it's a creation of Adam where the two fingers are touching.
Sistine Chapel?
Google it. Did you Google it?
Again, you're my Morgan Freeman.
Come on, look it up, Shawn.
Thinking what you say.
Look it up.
Yo, okay, my whole life, I thought it was the 16th chapel. Sistine Chapel. Okay, here it is. Yep, there it is in Vatican City, Sistine Chapel. I thought it was the 16th chapel.
I love it. Shawn facts.
I need to make a stinger where it's like the current affair. Wah, 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 wah. Shawn facts. Oh my God, I'm sweating. The Sistine Chapel. What is this hypocrisy? Lucy's transported to outer space. Seeing the creation of Earth, comets colliding with it, creating it. 99%. Mr. Jang is approaching slowly behind Lucy with a gun to her head. She's still flying through the furthest regions of the galaxy, looking through outer space. Mr. Jang approaches. The dark matter begins creeping up Lucy's neck. We get this trippy sequence of going through a black hole and coming out the other end.
Yeah, wild. This is really cool.
Mr. Jang gets right up to Lucy, who now becomes engulfed by this black mass. 100%. Mr. Jang pulls the trigger. Pop, 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 pop. Lucy is gone. He points the gun at Morgan Freeman and his buddies. Where is she? The cop says, hey, you, and shoots Mr. Jang. The black mass begins moving, and out pops a USB and hands it to Morgan Freeman. And then it turns to dust. All the world's knowledge on one USB. It's pretty cool. It's made up of stars and whatnot.
How many? But like, this movie was, what year did we say? It was 2014?
I think so, yes.
So what was the biggest USB you could buy in 2014?
Oh, please. Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, like I couldn't even fit like 50 pictures on one.
She got all the world's knowledge.
All the world's knowledge. I'm like, that must be a big USB.
Well, maybe she found a way to archive it on there.
Yeah.
That, you know.
Thumb drive.
Yeah.
Upset, the cop's asking, where's Lucy? And then his phone says, I am everywhere. Morgan Freeman smiles. Life was given to us 1 billion years ago. Allegedly. Now you know what to do with it. The end.
There you go.
That's Lucy, man.
I think the end should have had the song from the end of The Matrix in it. That would have been cool.
Yeah. I love this movie so much. I've watched it so much. It breaks my heart knowing that it's not based. I mean, I was hoping it would be 50% factual. But no, it was, man. But I don't care. I don't give a goddamn. I can still enjoy things that are fake.
Listen, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think it takes away from me enjoying the movie. Again, I look these things up because we're talking about it on a podcast, but you know, without looking them up, I just watched the movie and I'm like, oh, this is trippy. This is crazy. We're all over time. She's turning into this Venom supercomputer. You know, what happens next? Like, do those dudes fight Morgan Freeman for that USB? Is he the only one who has it? Like, what happens when he opens it? Is her talking to him? Like, I want to know that too.
The reason I wanted to watch this movie, because like we were talking about a lot of like artificial intelligence and all the crap that's been going on with it. And there's a lot of that like in this movie, and like how like I've seen something where it's like the evolution of humans, and you see it like from nothing to human to ape, whatever, and then it morphs into Lucy, what like that supercomputer, and like in billions of years from now, will we just be, you know, that black mass, that mold, and like we're humans are computers, and that's like the Matrix.
Public service announcement and say, if you make AI art, you don't make art. I'm just going to say it again. That's not art. Yeah, yes. Type in prompts.
Yes.
So I say that whenever I possibly can, because it's all over the place now.
Yes. And that's partially why we did this, is because there's so much AI stuff happening. And I feel like Lucy is the evolution of humans, where it's just all computers and all everything technological, but we'll be long dead in the ground by then.
But I totally, like, I hadn't seen this. I don't know why or how I missed it. I totally enjoyed the movie. I know it sounds like, and I'm going to go back and listen to this and be like, I'm coming across mean, but
you discredited everything. I can't believe it was all non-factual. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's loosely based on facts,
Yeah,
and I think that if it's a superhero film, if it's just full fantasy, then why does it matter?
Yeah.
Right? I think it's not like hardcore science fiction fans would not be into this, right? There's certainly other movies that a lot of heavy duty scientific research has gone into them, and we'll talk about some of those movies in the future. And I think in this case, the director just grabbed some nuggets of fact, parceled them out, and made a really cool movie out of it. Like it's not supposed to be a science lesson.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, and like I don't know what to categorize this under. Is it like action? But I feel like Mr. Jang as the villain has a lot of horror to him.
Yeah, I think I think it would be a science fiction.
Yeah, and I
movie.
feel it's like a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Yes, and this was one you had never seen before, so I enjoy turning you on to like thank you for taking the dive with me into these brand new movies. And I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad
I did. And you know what? If I got any of my facts wrong, you know what I mean? If you listen to it and you're like, he's actually wrong, then, by no means am I an expert on any of this. Except the Sistine Chapel. I'm an expert on
the 16th chapel.
I love it.
How embarrassing.
I love it. And this podcast is recorded. We're not going to edit that out.
I'm not editing a goddamn thing. Are you kidding me?
Going in. We're all going to make mistakes. Point them out. We'd love to hear it. If you want to jump in and discuss any of this with us, if you have theories on it, we'd love to hear your theories. I'm curious to see the feedback on this movie because I think it did pretty well. So I
hope the podcast does as well as the movie did. We're gonna get back to horror. We're gonna get back to hardcore horror and fun. But I feel like this movie needed to be represented because it's very underrated, and I'm happy that we got it in under 20 episodes for our podcast.
Absolutely, and I feel like all the movies we've talked about can live in a similar mindset.
World. Yeah,
right, in a similar world, and this fits right in there with it, so it's awesome. Thanks to everybody who listened. Appreciate it. Holler at us and let us know how much of a fool we are, and then do you want to tease, Shawn, the next episode?
So I mean, at In Madness Pod on all the socials. Don't forget on our YouTube, subscribe, check out our In Madness playlist. Did you have another milking of the alpacas moment?
I didn't.
That was
yeah.
I like when you had your own. Anytime if we have a different one, make sure you let me know.
No, I was like right away when they shot the guy. I was like, okay. And when you said it, I didn't say anything. But I'm thinking, I don't think I had a different one. I didn't have it in my notes that I had a different one.
Yeah, I like this movie. Like The Mist, it gets crazier and crazier and crazier, and I love the brain growing aspect of it. And I think it's super underrated. And I think if you haven't seen this movie, you should definitely watch this movie. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Is there anything you want to plug before I start teasing?
Nah, I'm good. Vertebrae33 on everything, socials. Check us out. Go back and listen to the menu episode that just came out. It's fantastic. So many of the episodes I really enjoyed doing. And we're excited for the future.
Don't be afraid of checking out our Batman episode. Just because it's a longer length doesn't mean it's not as good and detailed as everything.
Yeah, split it up into
2 drives, sections. 2 long car rides.
We come out every 2 weeks, so you have 2 weeks to get caught up on the next one. That's fine. Or listen at your leisure whenever you want. If you got the middle seat on a plane and you need to listen to something, go ahead.
So that's it. We're good. All the gnarly bits
good.
are in.
You got everything in? Yeah.
I'm using 100% of my brain capacity. There it is. I feel like there could have been some more Morgan Freemans in this episode.
Perhaps. But I think you got to dole those out over time. We're going to have other Morgan Freeman movies.
I can't believe it was a goddamn liar, this whole movie.
But it wasn't, because it came from Morgan Freeman.
It did. It was. 16th Chapel. Thanks for hanging out with me, Shawn the Butcher, on the socials, at In Madness Pod on the socials, at Vertebrae33 on the socials. Thanks for hanging out with us for episode 13. We will see you at episode 14 of In Madness Pod.